Flora will be presenting tonight. But before Flora starts, I wanted to do some housekeeping stuff. If you need to use the restroom, any of these, well, that's a closet right here. This one and this one, I'll lead up into the hallway, and the bathrooms are just straight back here, so you're welcome to, sneak out whichever way feels most comfortable. There's snacks, help yourselves. There's pen and paper. If you need any extra, let us know. Clipboards if you're sitting somewhere at a table. There might be some people joining us. There's still about 20 people that registered that are here, so we're just going to let them all dive in as they come. But tonight I wanted to introduce Erin to you guys. I Thrive for a nonprofit, and most of you know about us, but some of you are new to Thrive, so I wanted to give a little bit of a background here. Because we're a nonprofit, all of our funding comes from donors or businesses in the community. We do receive some grants, but grants have been limited in the past few years, so we rely heavily on donors in the community and businesses. And Erin is in Charles Schwab here in Bozeman. And specifically, I'm thankful for her because this is a private institute. And so what that is specifically is each year we host 3 different ones. We try to pick different topics that are relevant to families currently happening in Bozeman or anybody giving us feedback. And we get to bring in a professional to present to you, and I get a break from teaching classes, which is nice for me. And with that comes fees, as you know, because we want to get some great people in here to speak. We want to have free childcare for people. All those things come at a cost. So Charles Schwab has sponsored us for 3 years with a significant amount of money to be able to bring in some really qualified people. And before, I think our budget was $400 per year, and it's significantly more than that. So we're really, really thankful for you and all of our community partners. But we just wanted to acknowledge her here tonight, and I want to hear from the floor and talk a little bit about, who she is and what she does here in Bozeman. So thank you, Erin.
Yeah, thank you. Well, gosh, I already feel like I'm going to get emotional just because all of these things to me are really important. And I think it's important because I am a parent. I have 3 children. They are now 18, 15, and 12. And I know that when my kids were younger, I didn't have opportunities to come to educational events like this. And even now, with the ages that they are, I know that the topic that you're presenting on tonight is very important. We obviously, at Charles Schwab, we are a financial services company, and we do everything from, help people with retirement plans, from investing in their first dollar all the way up until as many dollars as you may have. But it's really about education and financial literacy, and we hope to be a welcoming space for people who might not be comfortable saying, hey, I need help with my finances. And I think that's how I think of this organization and also these types of classes, is to say, I need help with parenting because we all do. I mean, with my 3 kids, I remember 2 of them, the oldest 2, I remember the time were crank sleepers. Like I thought, oh yeah, I'm the best parent ever. Totally got this down. I knew how to do it. And my 3rd one came along and never slept ever. I mean, she was the worst. I had to find somebody to hire a sleep coach and do all these things. I was like, how can I have 2 children and finally one comes along? They're just all different, and there are times when you just really need help, and you need people to come along and give you some tips, and just those different circumstances. And so a few years ago, we were sitting down with Brittany, and it was right after COVID. And I remember our team, we like to invite executive directors and different people from organizations into our office. And we have a group, there's only 5 of us, but we also have a group of all 5 of us that we call our Go Giving Circle. This year we're giving $80,000 away to the community, and that's coming out of our profits from the office. And 3 years ago, we sat down with Brittany and said we want to have some things that are not just, we give once a year, but really have something that is more substantial that we give over a period of time, so that you as an organization can plan and actually put some things together. And after COVID, it was there were a lot of resources that we needed, and she said, hey, we don't have what we need to be able to present these
Thank you for coming. So this is our third one and final one for the year, and this is the first time she's been able to come, so it's so exciting to have her here. I forgot to introduce myself specifically, but I'm Lacey, and I'm the parent educator here. I'm also in charge of supervising our early childhood program, so we have home visitors that go into the homes with families with young families with young kids, so I get to oversee all of that. And then we also partner with the school district for early literacy, so we get to do early literacy activities with kids that are aged 2 to 5. And so if you have a child within that age range and you'd like to know if they're ready for kindergarten, you can just give me a call and we can do some assessments and see if we can support your kiddo to be ready for kindergarten. And we also have a Spanish-speaking parent educator now too, so if you know anybody who is Spanish speaking and would like that service as well, we now can offer that. So we're really excited about that. Laura, I didn't hear anything about you, but I'm so excited to have Laura here tonight. I have been one of those parents viewing you from the side. I have 4 kids and we're kind of in the same spot here, but I have 2 high school boys, a daughter that just graduated college and a daughter in college. And I think as parents, when we're seeing social media and different advertisement for things, we're like, oh, that looks great. Oh, that would be helpful. And I've seen you, at State of Play and all these different places supporting families and never really had the chance to interact with you. So when I was looking for someone to come and present tonight, I'm in an early childhood coalition group and unanimously people were recommending Flora. So I reached out to you and you've been so willing to just join in and help us tonight. So thank you for coming. And I'm excited to hear you for the first time. So I appreciate you being here.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks so much. So yes, I'm Flora McCormick and I'm a licensed therapist. I've worked for over 15 years with families and I used to work directly with children. And then over the years came to a place where I wanted to just support parents. I actually took some time off, was a stay-at-home parent myself full time and realized, holy crap, this is harder than what I've been telling everyone. It's like the information is the same, but I was like, I understand how much harder it is to really do this. So my business is called Sustainable Parenting because that's the word I kept hearing from friends and felt in myself, like, this is not sustainable. I feel like I'm trying to do all the things I'm seeing online about gentle parenting and being supportive and validating, and then they don't listen, or we're in this power struggle and I lose my freaking stuff. And that's not sustainable. I don't want to keep going in that bounce between, gentle mom, monster mom, back to gentle mom because I feel bad. So if anyone else, I see some nodding heads in the room, maybe that relates a bit to you. You are not alone. And my hope tonight is to give you tools that balance this place of kindness and firmness at the same time. And I also love to work with couples, especially that might be on different ends of that spectrum too. I myself was raised by a kindergarten teacher of 15 years, and my husband was raised by the warden of the state prison here in Montana. So as you can imagine, we had some of those dynamics of push-pull between some, gentle and more harsh. And so, without further ado, let's jump in. My goal tonight is to give you many tangible things to leave with to try to decrease power struggles. Would anyone like that? Okay, good. So let's start with, I'd love if you would turn to someone near you, not the person that you came with. We're going to do a lot of conversation and interacting during our night tonight. So to warm that up a little bit, I just want you to share one thing that you love about your child or children, one thing that has been hard lately, and one thing you love help with tonight. One thing you love about your child, one thing that's been hard lately, and one thing that you would love help with tonight. Would you turn and visit with someone? Okay, if you can wrap up what you're sharing. All right, let's hear from some of you, and I'm so glad you're visiting. We'll have some more chances to visit through the night. So let's hear a few of the things that you guys shared. Let's first do some shout outs. What are some of the things that we love about our kids? Energy. Spicy. Good for you for seeing that as a positive. I'm gonna venture to say that might also come over here. What else? Creativity. I'm gonna grab a different pen. Innocence. Love that. What else? Persistence. Again, anyone feel that one's over here as well? You know, yeah, okay, we'll go there too. Persistence. Assertive. Also, maybe a little bit over here. Kindness. Love that. And empathy. Awesome. Ooh, yeah. They take us back to basics of like enjoying the little things that we start to not notice in adulthood. What else? Like if you say we're having ice cream 2 Sundays from now, they are not forgetting that. That might also sometimes go over here. Okay, what are some of the challenges? Listening. Can I see a hand up if anyone else has a challenge? Just so that, who said listening? Was that Kev, covering up your thing? So Keith knows he's not alone. Yes. Listening. What else? Arguing. Thank you, Melissa. Anyone else have arguing going on in their home? Raise your hand so she knows she's not alone. Thank you. Demanding. Anyone else? Yes. What was that? Sneakiness. Anyone else? Sneakiness? Yes. You are not alone. Negotiations. Little lawyers. Stubborn. Again, I think that's with our assertive, persistent, stubborn. Know it all. Thank you. Lack of communicating. All right. What are some of the things you would love help with tonight? Specific bedtime, mealtime, sibling fights. What do we got going on?
We got like a demanding, like we'll say you can have one bottle. And she'll say, she'll get done with that bottle and say, give me another one. We'll be like, no, that wasn't the deal.
Uh-huh.
And
This is
it's
good.
just
Ah, there we go. Okay. Negotiating, begging, etc. So you're telling her what the boundary is and she's pushing it. Is that right? Okay. What else? Or the rule that you told her? So the end of the world response. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Raise your hand again if anyone's ever heard you're the worst parent. I have heard it as well. You are not alone. Okay. I want a new mom. Something like that. What's that? You don't let me do anything. Yes. Catastrophizing. Okay. What else? So sibling fights. Yep. Tantrums of resistance, I will call that. Ignoring you and you've asked them to do something. Okay, anywhere else we're missing? I mean, I know there's many places, but specifically around power struggles. Would you say a little more? Like she said I could, or else going and asking the thing you just got an answer to? This is not sticky. Yeah.
I look extra tape.
Thank you. So pitting them against like that. Sorry, say that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me at least, and I'm sure it goes on with many different levels, but it's that it's well, that says you're in charge. Well, you make the decisions against this, or you can make changes against this. So it kind of ends up being that there's certain things that I can see that she's wanting, but it's going being one parent against the other.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I got a question. It's more of a question. It's like, so something that happens in our house is like, I'll be like, hey, let me help you get your pajamas on. And she'll be like, no, mom will
Yeah.
Like, no, let me help you. And then it's like, she literally won't let you.
Yeah. Yep. I'll put it on the list and definitely have an answer for that. Yes. Any other scenarios that we want to make sure are up here? Eating? How about meals, getting out the door, bedtime, and transitions? Hands up? Okay, then we're going to address those for sure. Okay, so the first thing that I want to suggest, what I see that happens a lot with power struggles, I am going to trip on this thing. What I see happens a lot with power struggles is that we can end up without realizing it in a cuckoo cycle, I call it. Commands and consequences being our only main tools. Please, can you do this? Hey, we need to come, we need to leave. Hey, I'm going to do bath time for you. Hey, this is the rule. Hey, we're doing one bottle. We see resistance, we explain more. We try to tell why we need to do it. We're saying why it's important. We're, negotiating or debating. And then when their responses are frustrating us, we might blow up over into consequences like, that's it, you're going straight to bed because you keep arguing with me about this. And it doesn't improve the situation. This is where parents will tell me, doesn't matter what consequence I say or how nicely I say it or how many times I've said it, doesn't seem to change the behavior. If any of that has been what you find yourself saying, then you're probably caught in this cuckoo cycle, commands, consequences being the main things you're turning to. So tonight I want to offer you a perspective of thinking about leaning into what I call CEO instead of instead of the cuckoo cycle. So what are those three things? The first thing, when we see resistance or emotions or defiance, I call that red, resistance, emotions, or defiance, is to do something very counterintuitive and connect before you correct. When parents have done this, a mom that I was working with said, I notice 80% of my power struggles don't lead to blowups or me yelling or me repeating myself when I just remember to start with connection. What does that look like? That can look like a lot of different things, and I'm going to give you some examples tonight. But often what we do, if we're trying to do some sort of connection, you might say, I've done that, I name that. I'm like, I see that you're frustrated, but we have to get out the door and we have to keep moving. And we go right back into the command side of explaining things. And so what I say is one of the first things I would recommend you think about doing with starting with connection is to reverse the 80-20 split. We usually spend 20% of our time validating and connecting and maybe saying, I see that you're frustrated, but 80% of our time then telling them how they should feel differently about it and be acting differently and be doing things differently. If you flip-flop that, that's 80% of taking a moment to say, like, boy, you're really frustrated with your sister. Tell me what's going on here. Maybe listening to that. You really wish that you could have another bottle. You just really, really, really want it. And that's all you can think about right now. Leaning into that more. It's almost like if you've ever been bit by a dog, they say to get out of a dog bite, you should actually lean into it to loosen the dog's jaw. That's what it can feel like to lean into feelings when they're being resistant. But it is a more effective path to get out of it if we can let them feel heard. So we're going to do an exercise in a minute to explain that a little bit more, but I just want to lay the groundwork. The second part that I want to recommend you're thinking about doing is then stepping into tools that encourage cooperation. That's the E. This is on the back of your handout, the CEO. Connecting first. Second, encouraging cooperation instead of just demanding it. If we are treating, I'll be honest and tell me if this is true for you. I really thought parenting would sort of be like having a golden retriever. Like they would snuggle when I wanted to snuggle. We would play when I wanted to play. And then they would like sit when I said sit. They would stay when I said stay. And that's not how human beings are. These are little humans that have desires and feelings and off days just like the rest of us. So we have to work with that to give tools that encourage the cooperation. That's what I'm going to be giving you. And then third of all is ownership. If we've started with connection, then we've tried to encourage cooperation, then we lean into how can we give the child a clear way of understanding this is what's going to happen here. I'm not going to negotiate with a terrorist. One of my favorite things to remember. And we can give appropriate ownership, though, to the child of how they can get their needs met differently. So let's dive into these. So on the first of your handouts, it says the first most powerful way that we can help decrease power struggles is to, first, let's go to the very top. If you have a child that has been having a hard time with bedtimes, they've been negotiating a lot, it seems like they push everything that you ask them to do, the first thing that we need to check is the vitals. How are bedtimes? A lot of children are not getting enough sleep. And so if bedtimes are happening like 9 to 10, or you're like, but we're trying, but it keeps getting pushed because of more battles, definitely love to help you with that. And we'll talk about some ideas for it. But We got to start getting more sleep to see better behavior. My kids are like the Snickers commercial. If they have not gotten enough sleep and they're not fed, it's like total meltdown city and the worst version of themselves. Same thing with food, and then also just general overstimulation. Or if all of the things I'm giving you tonight, you're seeing no things budge, or just incredible sensitivity to transitions and all of these other changes, moments where they're emotional, you might want to consider evaluation with an occupational therapist who can help on that more like cellular nervous system level. And if you understand. If you want to ask more about that afterwards, I'm happy to answer some questions. Then the first most powerful thing I want to offer you is to make agreements in advance. So how many of those things, when you guys are thinking about negotiations around dinner time, around tech time, around bedtime, if you really pause and if I asked you, well, what's your plan for dinner time? Are they supposed to eat, or do they not have to eat? Do they have to take a no thank you bite? Do they need to eat in order to have dessert? Are they available to have snacks until bedtime if they don't eat dinner? Or is it, nope, this is what we have all the way until bedtime? Do you have a plan for that part of your life? Or with tech time, is it, I give them my phone when I need them to have my phone? Is it around when it's convenient for you? If we don't have some agreements in advance, some plans in advance, then we're gonna get the pushback. It's just like, imagine if you had a boss that it was like whenever they felt like it, they were like, I think I'm just gonna give you $1,000 today. And then whenever they felt like it, they're like, it was too much to give you $1,000 yesterday, so it's only $100 today. Okay, I gave you too much. That's what it feels like for our kids when we're like, I said yes to 5 popsicles yesterday, so 0 today. All right, quit asking me. I'm tired of this. Or you kept asking me for TV and one more, and I let you have it yesterday. So today, no, we're only doing 1 show. Those types of things prime the pump for us to have power struggles. So a couple key things that I would recommend is think to yourself right now, whether it's tech time or bedtime or food, what is one of those that you're thinking of right now? You're like, we do not have a plan. We do not have an agreement about what the answer is. Like, we're going to do 1 show in the morning and 1 show while I'm putting sister down for naps. Or, you're allowed shows for 2 hours Saturday and Sunday morning, but we're not doing anything during the weekday. Whatever fits for your family. And I want you to think right now about what that would be. Second thing could be meal times. And there's so many different areas of how you can approach that, but I recommend you make a plan. If it's been like, well, she just won't eat, and so then she has snacks all the way until bedtime, and I don't want her to go to bed hungry. Maybe tonight, right in this moment, you want to decide, I'm going to make a new plan that like dinner is what is available all the way until bedtime. So whether I think they need to sit and eat it in this 20 minutes or they get up and come back to it, we're not going to have any other food until bedtime besides dinner food. Or perhaps it's with getting out the door. You can make an agreement in advance that when you're ready, then you're able to turn on the cartoons instead of doing it in the reverse order and begging them then to try to get dressed afterwards. Or when I've said shoes on, coat on, out the door, anything you touch is then going away for 2 days. So let me just be clear about that. Or let's make an agreement that when we're ready by 10 minutes to 8, you can choose a toy from our basket right here to bring in the car with you to play with while we drive to school. Not like we're searching all around the house for the purple dinosaur, but like we could choose one of the things from mommy's little basket here. So turn to someone near you and share what is coming to mind. That's like one thing, and maybe you want to swap some ideas about what that agreement in advance could be. This is you deciding what the rule is going to be. You guys could share with the couple behind you if you want. Oh. And we're 6 to 7:30, right? Just so I'm clear on time. Okay.
Also talk about when the CEO fails.
It doesn't fail because there's each one of the parts applies to something. So if connection doesn't work and encouraging cooperation doesn't work, then we go to ownership, which is if all else fails, like on the anger curve, and I can explain this, but you know, if that means that it's not working because they're exploding, is that what you mean? Or they're just not doing what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Then my favorite is the very last one there. I love you and we're not having the bottle. Mm-hmm.
And then would you say, like, similar to the golden retriever, if you do tape on the bottle,
you're reinforcing terrorist behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, so
and
if you wait an hour and you ultimately cave, that's a really bad thing.
It actually teaches them to push at least an hour next time. Yes. And so that's what's hard, but know what your line is and be clear and work as a team to be able to affirm each other. Because that's what I would always be like to my husband, you know, like, are we being too harsh? I don't know. This feels too harsh. He's like, we're not being too harsh. We were clear. She doesn't need a second bottle. There's one bottle and that's fine. And we're working on X purpose and like, you know, back each other up and enforce it. And she's going to be okay. And it builds her struggle muscles, that sense that like we have to remember our job in parenting is not to keep our kids always happy. It's to help them be able to deal with the real world.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
We have a similar dynamic. It's probably you and your guys were out and we're like, give me the bottle. And she's worried about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Really understand.
So that's what I love about the I love you and the answer is no, is because she will love hearing you add the I love you to your firmness, and you will love hearing her keep the no with her I love you. You know what I mean? So it's like both of you will benefit if you can lean into that. You know, that's for her. It can help her remember I love you and I can't lose the and is still no. And then for you, if she hears you add I love you when you're being super firm, she might feel a little more like, okay, I don't feel like he's pulling and being so mean. So that might help you guys feel more on the same page. Yeah. Do you guys utilize any, like if she wants to scream and cry, it's like she can do that in her own space?
She doesn't really feel that need, but it's really just
Yeah.
a couple things that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the bottle thing we struggle, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't want him, but she wants mom really to like.
Yeah, and the mom, I'll answer that. So I would just say that again is like she is pushing and wondering if she can be a terrorist to change and get mom, and just lovingly to be able to say, I love you, and it's dad's turn right now. And you just, yeah. Yes, it's what I call suffering with a purpose, so you can stop suffering in circles. You know, if you can endure it and be like, you know, she's very upset about it, and you're like, you're welcome to feel your feelings, you can be upset about it, and it's still dad. Then it stops being something that she's trying as much. Yeah. All right, let's come on back and share some of our ideas. So, hopefully you were able to brainstorm some ideas there. Were there questions where you're like, well, what about? Anyone have question areas where you weren't quite sure and you want an idea for it? Toby, you look like you're puzzling on something. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So anyone else have ideas of what you are doing for around having a child who doesn't want to eat it anymore and having slow eating? You can. Yeah, so you could set a timer, and if you do dessert, or we used to do like a fruit snack kind of with story time, that my kids love fruit as much as dessert. It would be like, well, when this is done, then you can have fruit, and if you haven't finished this, then there's not room in your belly for the fruit, and or for the dessert, and that could either be at the specific time right at the end of dinner, or when the timer goes off, um, or you also, one of my favorite things to try to encourage kids, well, this is to stay at the dinner table, but she is being more resistant to just eating. One of my favorite things to think about also is empowering kids to know how they can express that it's not their favorite, and encouraging them to have a growth mindset about what they're not liking. So if she's saying, like, I don't like this now, I don't like that now, I would not start speaking that finite language that she's maybe trying to put out there, like, okay, we know you don't like carrots, but it is what we're having tonight. We want to say more like our taste buds are always learning to like new things, and carrots weren't your favorite yesterday, but maybe they will be tonight, so this is still what we're having. And so maybe a combination between those two things. It is hard if she just by nature is wanting a little bit more time, then you might figure out if there's any way to accommodate that a little bit within your family schedule as well, to not rush her. Any other question areas? Like to get, so one of my favorite things in terms of agreements in advance is to use words like when, then. And so one of my favorite things is introducing something I call the dinner game, and just having some sort of resource of silly questions. If you have boys, there's a really great resource that I've only found at this one campfire site, and I can give you it, but it's a would you rather, and you get to pick two different things. And so they're like more gruesome things like, would you rather have 18 eyeballs, or or have to walk on your head all the time or something, or would you rather have snakes coming out of your eyes or claws from a lobster as your hands? And then, or you can have questions that are things like, if you had a superpower, would you rather be able to walk through walls or fly? And the key is having something that gets drawn. I don't know what is magical about that, but if you're just asking questions, it's not fun. But if it's that whoever's at the table and eating gets to have a turn when this thing is passed around to pick the question, and then everyone around the table answers the question, to me, that's a really nice gap bridger between kids that just want to play and us expecting them to sit and tell us about their day, which is like not really age appropriate yet. Like, tell me about your day. And like, how many kids just say, fine, my kids included? So that something like this gets conversation to grow and connection, and encourage them to be at the table. Yeah.
We got a gift of that one time for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
My sister-in-law.
Of questions.
It was like a bowl, a plastic bowl.
Yeah.
with a lid,
Yeah.
And it had different questions and stuff in it. And we used it for like a year, and then set it aside, and then we ended up pulling it back out.
Yep.
Over, and I still loved it.
Mhm.
And so they would listen to each other a little bit more. And then I have four, right? Because they each wanted their own turn.
Yes.
So it was a great way to put them all in one spot.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a nice gift to give to somebody too, to find out that it works, popsicle sticks or whatever.
Yeah. And we also started using them for long car rides, and got tired of the like, are we there yet? And playing freaking, what is the I Spy? I just get tired of that game. And so we started bringing the questions along on a car rides, and it like got us into some really neat, fun, silly, nice conversations in car rides. A question was asked up here by Jack, and I want to answer it for everyone. He said, well, what if you try the CEO process and it still doesn't work, and they explode and they melt down, and what do you do? So what we talked about is that if they are going to go, I would say this is like the anger curve, 0, 8, 10. When our kids are going to explode, if they are going to go there, I kind of generally think of this line as hitting, harming, or screaming. When parents are like, well, how do I know when it's that line? I do recommend this, again, one of those agreements in advance to make with yourself, first of all, then with your partner, and then third of all with the kids. But understanding that if they are going to choose to just be super, super upset about the boundary that you have set for them, that I recommend one of two options: a silent hug or space to calm down. And that space to calm down can look like whatever aligns for your family. Sometimes that means leaving a screaming, kicking toddler just right there still on the kitchen floor. I remember doing that with my daughter when she was 3. It's like easier to just walk away and just go about my business. And what do you know? After about a minute of doing that, it would just change and she wasn't getting attention for it. And so she would calm down. And other moments, it might be that you have like a cozy space that they learn is their space to be able to calm down. Or if you want to utilize a bedroom, it's up to every family has different values about what feels right for them. And ultimately also a silent hug can be used to try to calm them down when they're in that most explosive place. But less is more. And as Jack pointed out, like, so what if they just start going, and then finally you're like, okay, here's the bottle, then fine. That actually is going to encourage them next time to push at least that long, if not longer. Because we know from psychology research that intermittent reward is the most powerful reward. That's why gambling works. That's why people will spend their lives sitting at those machines, pulling after putting in quarter after quarter. Because one time they pulled 5 times and they got a prize. Another time they had to pull 25 times, but they got a big reward. So it's like worth pushing it longer. And we don't want to be doing that with rewarding a tantrum by giving into it. But let's talk a little bit more about what else we can do to prevent it. So first foundational to avoid power struggles is to make agreements in advance. Were there any other questions that folks wanted to ask related to making an agreement in advance?
Is there a connection?
You, yes, Jay, John.
Is there a connection if you make the agreement in advance, but you still end up in an escalation where their behavior is having, they're just throwing that agreement out the window?
Yes. So agreements don't mean that they're not going to disagree with the agreement. Like an agreement in your job is that if you're late 3 times, you're written up and, or the agreement is that we start work at 8 o'clock. So there's not wiggle room for like, could I come in at 7 or can I come in at 9 sometimes? Can I work from home? It's to decrease that power struggle. It doesn't mean though that there isn't going to be an emotional moment where they don't like that agreement. And we can have responses, but the goal is to try to prevent some of them by at least having an agreement in advance. So what's the idea that was coming to your mind? What's the situation? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Even if it's not doing anything like reactionary.
Yes.
What are we doing?
Yes. Okay. So let's clarify this a little bit about agreement. So one key thing about the agreement is that may be where you need to have a when then sort of discussion. So it's not like, hey, we agreed that you are going to get ready quickly every night, right? And he's like, sure, I will. That's not the agreement. The agreement in advance is, let's be clear, we're getting frustrated with bedtime taking a long time. So when you're ready by 9:50 or 9:50, 7:50, we have time for 3 books. And when you're not, we may only have time for 2 books. And if you keep drawing it out longer, we may only have time for 1 book.
We do that.
Yeah.
Like there's a cutoff, like even there's a cutoff. So if you want minutes to read, you want minutes to play, to the questions, you want minutes to talk about Pokemon, you have to create those minutes between snack and 8:30.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so then making sure to follow through. So we can't put those plans just assuming then that they are going to do it the right way. Sometimes our kids have to test going the not so happy road and experience that to then be motivated to do it better on the other nights. So you have to be willing to, like I said to Jack, suffer with a purpose. so that you can stop suffering in circles. Meaning you have to face that night that you're like, that's it, buddy. You used up all your minutes. We do not have time to have our Pokemon game. And then he's like, no. And it's at bedtime and he's upset about it. And it makes bedtime go longer. But then the next night, you're like, so remember again, buddy, when you do this quick and snappy, we have time for our Pokemon stuff. And when you don't, we don't. So think about, and so then you can use that third party bad guy, I kind of call it, that as you're trying to promote him to get ready, it's not like, please get off the floor and just get to the toothbrushing. It's, buddy, it really looks like you're going to miss Pokemon time, and pulling him to his motivation. This is essentially the visual that you're trying to create in their brains, in their experiences. Like, you have an opportunity here to get ready quick and snappy. The agreement is, let me be clear about the result. When you get ready quickly, you have time for this much of Pokemon, and when you don't, you don't. This is what we are trying to make in our agreement. Is not the agreement that you're going to behave a certain way, but I'll be clear about what the outcome will be if you choose the happy road versus the sad road. I have never shared this actual visual with my kids, but I use it in my language all the time. So it's up to you, knowing your kid. If you feel like this would be helpful, you absolutely could draw this out very easily, or I could give you a copy of my little simple version of it. Or you just try to hold this in your mind as you're talking, because again, we often get overly verbal with our kids and we're like, buddy, would you just get ready for bed and like quit horsing around and crawling on the floor? This is making us so frustrated. It's going to make us late for bed and we can't do Pokemon time. And that is frustrating everyone. And if you would just get it together, then we could have a better night. Okay, think about how your brain's feeling with that. Now here, Lucas, let me be clear. When you're ready by 7:50, you have time for Pokemon. And when you don't, you don't. What are you going to choose to do right now? What felt different in those two explanations? And less like, what are you even, you're just mad at me. I get that you're mad at me, but I don't even really still know what I'm supposed to be doing and what it leads to for me. So if you can try to picture this in your own mind for your own language, I think that's a big part of it. All right, let's move on to, I'm going to skip around here. So I'm going to move down to the bottom two that I think are more in line with where our conversation's going right now. So the next one, and again, Jack is like my helper up here because he was asking such great questions, is I love you and the answer is no. So when you find that you have to follow through and you're like, we do not have time for Pokemon, and then what's your son's name? Augie, what a great name. And then Augie's like, but please, 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 I promise I'll listen now. Like, can't I? I'll do it right now. A wonderful phrase to be able to hold a kind and firm boundary and not get into a power struggle is, I love you and not but. The answer is no. That can also include, I hear that you wish you'd made a different choice, and I bet you'll make a different choice tomorrow. I love you and the answer is no is a really useful tool, whether you fall on the side of being overly kind or on the side of overly firm. So what I love for the overly kind, which is me, is that it would be like, but I love him so much and I don't want to see him sad. And so like, I want to do the I love you side. So for me, it was like, and Flora, and the answer is no. Like, I can say, I love you, and I have to also match that with keep the boundary. I can be a loving mom and hold the boundary and not feel bad that he is sad about the choice he made. I am a loving mom and he can be sad about the choice he made. That's the kind of self-talk I have to have. So if you're like me, that I love you and the answer is no is the part you want to really add on more often. If you tend to fall firm, that I want you to add the I love you. You might be great at saying no. I said no. I said no. It's absolutely no. And your partner might be getting frustrated with you being so firm. So just add the I love you and to your firmness. And I bet your partner will really appreciate seeing that. I see a lot of little like things going on. So yes, Bet your partner would appreciate you including the love with your wonderful firmness. Questions about that? Mm, and the peer pressure is harder, right? It's not just about them saying you're a mean mom, but everyone else's mom is letting them have a cell phone or be on Facebook, or not Facebook, that's for old people, be on whatever the apps are that they're on that I don't even know. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that. I love you. And the answer is no. Question or comment?
So let's say you go that route, they keep asking.
Broken record. Yes. Yes. One of my favorite things about this tool is to be, I love you, and the answer is no. I love you, and the answer is no. Especially if you're one who's likely to cave during power struggles, it's probably because you go down the rabbit holes that they try to take you down. Well, what if I just did it this one time? So this negotiating piece, this is a great tool for little lawyer negotiators. Just continuing to say, I love you, and the answer is still no. I love you, and it is absolutely no. And if you feel like they're really persisting so hard and not letting it go, you can tie this back to a when then kind of a statement and be like, okay, let me be clear. It's no. And if you ask me again, this is going to be the result. Either I'm walking away, or we are not going to be able to go to your friend's house now because you're not being respectful of what I've said, or whatever that answer might need to be. Or if it's like a one more show, the answer is not only no right now, but if you keep asking me, it will also be no tomorrow. So think about what you're gonna, move on, please. I love you, and the answer is no. Another really useful tool I like when they're trying to suck you into a power struggle is saying no with a yes. So for instance, we were driving by the sledding hill. It's only 2 blocks from our house. And it was 5:30, coming home from gymnastics. I haven't made dinner yet. We got to get these kids moving with, dinner time, bath time, all the stuff. And it was the first day that it had snowed. And I had been promising her, oh, the sledding hill's so fun. When it snows, we'll go sledding. And so what does she say as we're driving by the sledding hill? Mom, can we go sledding? And of course, there are kids on the sledding hill, even though it's 5:30. There's people out there. It'll be fine. I'm like, honey, we cannot go on the sledding hill. We need to get home. We got to cook dinner. I'm doing the logic thing. And she's like, well, but come on, you told me, all of the great arguments. You told me we were going to go sledding as soon as it was snowing, and it did snow, and we have time. I know we can cook dinner later. She's got all the great reasons. And I'm telling all my great reasons, and she's saying hers louder, and I'm saying mine louder. And so I stop and I remember this tool. Say no with a yes. I lean into it, coming back to our connect before we correct dog bite analogy. And I say, it's so hard to see all those people up on the sledding hill and not be able to do it yourself. She goes, yes. I go, it's just like you've been looking forward to it, and we've got those snow pants out, and you're thinking that'd be so fun to do right now. Yes, mommy, yes. And you're just like, oh, it's so hard to think that it's time for us to go home and eat dinner instead of going to do something fun. Yes. And by the time I'm on the third yes, I'm pulling into our driveway and I say, let's absolutely go sledding this weekend. That's going to be really awesome. Let's make sure that we save that for Saturday morning. That's when it'll work for our schedule. And it worked. You can do this at Target when you're looking at all the cool stuff and they're like, oh, I want that. Can I have this, mommy? That looks really cool. You're like, that's a great idea. Let's put it on your Christmas wish list. So grandma and papa know that that's something you want for Christmas. Yes, when. If I can say yes, when, instead of talking about the no, I'm less likely to be inviting a fight over it. Questions? Okay. We're going to do a little activity that's highlighting the NIP strategy. And what I'd love is if you would stand up, get yourself stretched a little bit, move to a different part of the room, find a partner, and sit down with them. And then all I need is for one of you to have a pen with you. Okay. Found a partner? All right. Introduce yourselves. Yes. All right. Whoever does, so choose one person in your pair that is going to be the A, amazing person, and the B, that's going to be the B, beautiful person. So just choose one person that's the A, amazing, between your A and B. Someone's an A, someone's a B. All right. All of the A's come up to me into my soundproof booth for some secret instructions. Whoever's the A, pick someone. Come on up. All right, we gotta come in for a huddle for a sec. Talk amongst yourselves who can't hear me. Okay. I'm going to instruct them to do something, and all I want you to do is say, I noticed you dropped your pen. And look at it. And try to just hold that. Maybe you look back at them and look at it. Don't say anything else. I noticed. Okay. Well, I'll take care of that part. All right. So those that are partners, just a second. Don't say what I told you to say yet until I say so. All right. So those of you that did not come into my soundproof booth, I need you to have a pen. And I need you to, not aggressively, just like you forgot it, you dropped your pen. And I want you to stand in the shoes of being a child who kind of forgot a pen there and just try to genuinely respond just to what this parent says to you right now. Okay? Go ahead, parents. Okay, we'll be your partner. Imagine you dropped that. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, I'll just pretend both of you are kids and imagine you just dropped that. I noticed you dropped your pen. Just notice whatever you would want to do if you were a child. You had dropped it. That's okay. I'll take that. All right, you can go ahead and have a seat. Okay. Now there's not one right way to have responded to this, so it's okay. So I'm just curious, let's start first with the kids. What did you find what were you thinking, feeling, or deciding when the parents said that to you? You wanted her to pick it up? What else? What did you say? You were the kid. What did you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding, Cameron? Mhm.
want somebody
Mhm.
because of something
Mhm. So your feeling was, I really, yeah, he's talking about my pen and I don't want to have to be the one to pick it up. I want someone else to do it for me. Mhm.
play this game, play a game with me, where you become, you do something.
Mm. What else did you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding?
I think the game is a good way to think about it, in the sense that it's like seeking attention. I put myself in my son's shoes, it's just like, I want to do something else, it's not good, but I want to do it, and just like, in those moments, if he's, like the distraction of the things, like, I'm really gonna mess with you and do this other thing,
Mhm.
but again, maybe that's just the intention.
Mhm. So imagine it wasn't an intentional manipulative thing, but he honestly just forgot the pen. And it was there, and this is your way to be bringing it to his attention. Did anyone have any other responses of what you found yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding when the parent said, I noticed you dropped your pen? So what? Mhm. Anything else? Anything else?
thought there would be more to the sentence.
Uh-huh.
Or that's the end of it?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Is it?
So in that silence, what else went into your mind next? Yeah. Well, I don't know. She's not yelling at me. She's not nagging. She's not saying again 50,000 times what I have to do. There's like in this silence a little bit of like, I don't know, I'll just pick it up. This is how I've seen this tool work in lots of situations in parenting. So one dad that was frustrated with repeatedly saying, could you get your shoes on? Could please get your shoes on? Why don't you have your shoes on? And then tried out saying, I notice you still don't have your shoes on. And just looked at his kid and he ran upstairs and put the shoes on. I think you will be surprised. Our kids get so tired of how much we are nagging and repeating that sometimes just throwing them off, like, I don't know, it's weird. I didn't know why you were saying that, why you weren't saying something else. So I just picked it up. So it kind of can be an element of surprise to just name it. Less is more. The other thing you can do with this is add an asking instead of telling afterwards. Like, I notice that you don't have your shoes on. And if he still just looks at you, could be like, what do we need to do about that? So just thinking about when we think of power struggles, we're frustrated with how much they're pulling their side of the rope. But what I'm trying to make sure you're thinking about tonight is how much you keep pulling the other side too. There are many ways that we can be more clever and not just repeat and nag and say it again and tell them what has to happen and have them then be tempted to say, no, I don't want to. We can use some different clever ways to introduce the problem. So it can be, I notice. What can we do to solve that? Any other places you could imagine using I notice besides getting shoes on? You shout out a scenario, thinking of some of these things, sibling fights, tantrums and resistance, they're ignoring you. And just look at it. Yes, I have done it with the towel that's always on the floor. How do they use the shower and then the towel's on the floor? And like, your towel's on the floor again. But instead saying, oh, I noticed the towel on the floor. Like, the body comes in and takes care of it. It's like a subtler way to say, I see a problem here. I notice, and then asking a question. How about sibling fights? What's that? I noticed that you have homework. Yep. Could be that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of putting myself into the sibling thing, and I feel like I noticed you guys are having conflict over the movie watch.
Mm-hmm.
How can we solve that?
Yes. Yeah.
Their brains work.
Yes.
I noticed you're pulling your sister's hair.
I notice her screaming. Yes. That might be where we have to go to the ultimate hitting Harmeet screaming. We default to this rule, but if it's just ramping up, then we absolutely. I notice some voices getting loud up there. Hold on. That might be enough to maybe the agreement in advance has been if it gets so loud that you're pulling hair, you will not be playing together. So, hey, I notice it getting loud out there. Remember, what do we need to do so that we can still be playing? A reminder like that. Continuing on, one of my other favorite tools is, well, actually, I want to add to this. So another way to think about this is something I call whoa, low, and slow. This is an idea in the power struggle moment, let's say when the children are just, you don't understand. Let's imagine these emotional moments where they're like, you're the worst parent ever and you don't understand me. We haven't yet approached that one. So this is a tool where it's kind of similar to the I notice and how do we solve the problem, a tool I call whoa, low, and slow. So again, I want you to go back to that same partner that you were just with, or actually let's just turn where we are right now. You can do this with your actual partner you came with, or you can do this with someone that's around you. So you're going to notice on this little exercise, there are two activities. The first one says, child says something, and then the adult first time is going to say something. So I want you to just do the child saying it and the adult saying that first thing, and then we're going to discuss it, and then we'll have the second time. You take one and pass it around to each partner getting, thank you. That you say things like this. This happens in every household. Okay, everyone should have some. So the first thing you see is it's saying, child says, I won't do it. You can't make me, sticking their tongue out. And then the parent, choose who's going to be the child, choose who's going to be the parent. You're going to say that first response and then pause, and we're going to discuss. I want you to stand in the shoes of your child, notice what you feel, notice what you're thinking, feeling, or deciding when the adult says that to you. Ready, go. That's it. Stop right there, Lacey. Yeah. Okay, so let's hear what you are noticing in that first exchange. When you say, no, I'm not going to do it and you can't make me, and the adult says, what does it say? Hey, stop that. You will not disrespect me. Those of you standing in the shoes of your children, looking out the eyes of your children, what are you thinking, feeling, or deciding? You're like, okay, yes, you're right. No. Yeah, could feel, right, a big presence saying that could feel scary, which scared could lead you to either run or ignore or cry, start crying. What else do you notice yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding when the adult said that to you? Angry. Yeah, it reminds me, one of the famous stories in my husband's family is that his brother, when he was 3, the dad said, I'm not very happy with you. And the 3-year-old said, I'm not very happy with you either. And it's like some kids are going to get scared and some are going to be like, well, let's go then. What else do you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding when the adult says, get over here, you will listen to me, don't disrespect me? Yeah. It's just mean and like, God, you're ridiculous. And yeah. And so, exactly right. So then if they are like, you can't make me, and then you're getting more energized, they're going to get more energized. It's almost like you're giving them permission to speak sharply. Yeah, absolutely. So let's also imagine that this is a moment where the kid is actually saying, no, I'm not going to do it. You can't make me, out of a place of really being nervous to go do the thing, or just being really tired of being ordered around all day to do a lot of different things, or being frustrated, or that it's not fair that their sibling isn't having to do this thing. Okay, let's try out this second exercise. So same thing, I want you, whoever's the child, to be the same child and to say the same thing. I won't do it, you can't make me. Now the parent, here's what I want you to try, and this is gonna feel awkward. I want you to say, whoa, hold on, and pause for 7 seconds in your head. You sound, and then guess a feeling word that you think the kid is the reason that they're not doing it. A feeling word is not, you sound like you don't want to do what I'm saying. A feeling word is a feeling word. You sound mad, sad, scared, frustrated, disappointed. Okay, pause for another 7 seconds. It's going to feel super awkward. And then how can we solve this? You're trying to respond in this recipe is 10 words or less. And I call it whoa, low, and slow because I want you to try to speak with a low and slow tone. Okay, and it might feel goofy, but just try it out. And as the child, I want you to just really notice what you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding. Try to stand in that child's real place. Okay, so just to be clear again, the kids are going to say the same thing. I won't do it. You can't make me. Stick your tongue out. And parent, you're going to do these 3 steps of the whoa, low, and slow. All right, go for it. All right. So would love to hear your thoughts on that. So first of all, let's hear from the kids. What did you find yourself? What did that feel like? What were you thinking, feeling, or deciding? The children. Yes. So it felt more like collaborative and like you were invited to a conversation instead of like a top-down kind of thing. What else? 99% of parents tell me the whoa is for them even more than the kid. It's to get us off the train of launching into advice and doing our own side of the power struggle. Yeah. What else? Jeff, you look like you have a thought.
I felt myself as a child, like, not being able to, like, I was pretending to be mad at that pause was just like, it was hard pretending to be mad at that whole stuff.
Yeah. And it's like if you're ready to argue and you're expecting the argument, and then it's like, oh, this kind of deflates. Like, I'm not feeling like I have to argue against that. She just named my feelings. That kind of felt good. What else did you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. This is yes, this is ultimately the internal process we want them to be able to do is like, whoa, I am angry about this, but what can I do to make it better? Absolutely. That's the long-term plan. Yeah, good point. Thank you. How about from the parent side? How did it feel to respond the second way versus the first way? What did you find yourself thinking, feeling, or deciding? You were a parent. What did you find? It felt a little awkward. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Forces the kid to think and gives you time to think. Yep. And part of why I wanted you to experience this is sometimes when people learn about like, oh, my wife's telling me to like validate his feelings more, and we don't have time. We have to get out the door. To remember that it's, 7 seconds. Really, the whole exercise that you all just did, I think was like 30 seconds long is all that anyone really took. So even when it feels like you don't have time to connect first before you correct, you really don't have time not to. Probably more often it gets worse when we go the old route versus if we can lean into this. So the very last thing that I'll give you from our list is to stop talking about elephants and make the right choice fun. So there's just, right now I want you all please to not think about elephants. Don't think about their like gray skin or their long trunks or their peanut eating. Like, do not be thinking about elephants right now. Nobody's thinking about elephants, are they? Anyone? Yes, of course you are. That's all I'm talking about. Well, don't we do the same thing sometimes in power struggles where we're like, they say, can I have ice cream? And you're like, no, you cannot have ice cream. We're not having ice cream right at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding me? That would be ridiculous for me to give you ice cream right now. Don't touch that button over there. Do not touch that. I've been telling you a million times that you do not touch this button. Or don't do that to your sister. You are always hitting her and you're always grabbing things. You always take things from her. I'm talking about the elephant, and it makes it more enticing. So what can you do to use your language to talk about something else instead of that power struggle of the elephant? If it's we're not having ice cream, it might be something like, it sounds like you're hungry. Do you think you want some applesauce or some pears? What should we get out of the fridge? So if I really want you not to think about elephants, I'm going to say I want everyone to close their eyes right now and picture that you're on a beach and you're feeling the sand between your toes and you're watching the waves crash in and out. I'm going to give you the other thing I want you to think about. And the same can be true for our kids. When we're hitting head on with like, stop doing that, I want you to think about the instead that you could be offering them. Instead of get off the couch, quit jumping on the couch. No, you cannot jump on the couch. Looks like you're wanting to jump. We could jump over here, or we could jump over there. Instead of you have to stop playing so we can do bath time, it's we get to do bath time, and do we want to play with the dinosaurs first or the colored bubbles or something like that. All right, we've gone through a number of different things. We are at the end of our time. We have an evaluation that we're going to pass out. Thank you guys so much. I know it takes a lot to be here. I have like one kid at one friend's house and the other kid being watched by my neighbors, and my husband's at a CE thing. So like, no, it takes a lot to make time in your night to be here. I know there are still questions buzzing about, but then what do you do when they freak out and they have a tantrum over it? That's a whole nother workshop I do about helping children manage their emotions and how we get kids to listen. But I will say that I also had Lacey print out a nice little refrigerator cheat sheet that you can take on the way out called 10 alternatives to nagging and yelling that get kids to listen. So hopefully this is another great tool for you among the others that you got tonight. And I would love, as you're filling out your evaluation, if you would just end by turning to someone next to you and sharing, I hope there's one thing you're taking away from tonight that you're either going to start doing or stop doing in your parenting. Would you just turn quickly and share what that one thing is?
Also, somebody's job was ice cream, which we didn't get that.